Hi everyone, this is Ryan Hoyme, aka Massage Nerd, and tonight we have a special guest, Skip Gavorski. Welcome, Skip.
Hi, how you doing tonight, Ryan?
Good. So we're going to be talking about identity theft tonight, but can you please give me a little bit, and the viewers here about background of how you got involved in identity theft, and then also even before you got into this field then?
Okay, I'd be glad to. Thanks for having me tonight too. It's my honor and pleasure to serve you and all your viewers on Massage Nerd. And I need you guys, so stay around. Um, I am one of those gentlemen that I've been in three separate careers. I started my time in with working for Kodak, and as the times went on, Kodak changed, so I had to change with it, and I found out I was an entrepreneur. So what happened from there is I was looking for something in the entrepreneur world, and I found out I was really good at startup companies. But then life took me back to the real world, and I ended up with AT&T. At the time, it was Ohio Bell, and I did a lot of different jobs there, and that's where I really started finding out about identity theft. I'm one of those guys that nothing can stop me. I've actually been shot, and low power, but it was still, I was shot. If you don't believe, I've been bit by a dog, and if you don't believe pit bulls can climb a ladder, I can tell you they do.
Yeah.
Because I was on the top of the ladder with one, and been dragged, and I've been hit by a couple. I've been hit by a truck too. So walking. So and it's just all in what I did. The reason I got into identity theft is about 15 years ago. I started seeing some of this stuff pop up, and when I was with AT&T, I was one of the gentlemen that took people out of service. And years ago, that's how they started with identity theft, was getting one of the utilities in somebody else's name. And that's how we started. And that's only about 10 years ago. And where it's gone in the last 10 years, it is unbelievable. So that's a little bit about me. And then about 3 years ago, I was introduced to a company called LegalShield. And I am one of the founding partners of a group called Parallel Horizons Group. And what we do is just give access to legal and identity theft plans. And the reason identity theft is so much of a hot button for me is because I've seen what this can do to people. So I said, you know what, I really want to do some research. So that's what I started doing about 3 years ago, and that we take it up to today.
Okay, perfect. And then how long you been in this field then?
Total, right around 15 years. Doing what I'm doing now, right around 3.5. So I've been doing presentations all over the state of Ohio for about a year and a half now, and I'm actually branching out and got some places I'm going to be going on the West Coast to do some presentations also.
You've probably seen a lot of changes over the years too with identity theft, and has it gotten a lot more rampant then?
Oh yes, it's definitely. If anybody follows the FTC, for the past 12 years, it's been the highest ranking complaint with the FTC. And really, what I'm going to do for your listeners tonight, okay, tonight, Ryan, they're going to have to get to you tonight with this answer. The first one is I'm going to give a $25 restaurant.com card away. So the first thing I want to ask is, how many years has it been that medical identity theft has been on the rise and the #1 cause of complaints for the FTC? So how many years has medical identity theft been on the rise, and which year was it #1 of the FTC complaints? So if somebody can get back to you before the end of the show, I'll repeat that again, but that's one of the questions.
Okay.
And you'll get a $25 restaurant.com. But yeah, things have changed dramatically, and identity theft is going in a lot of different directions. Like, one of the questions I like to ask to begin with was, let me ask you this, Ryan. Do you think Target was an identity theft issue? Because most of us have heard about what's happened with Target. So do you think that was an identity theft issue?
I think it is, but
Well, you know what? You're with most Americans. You're actually with where I was too. But what's happened is the companies on the marketplace, they're giving you identity theft products. What they've done is they've changed the definition of what identity theft is. Identity theft is when I steal who you are. So if I steal Ryan's identity, what's happened at Target was actually a breach. it could lead to identity fraud. That's like, Ryan, if I broke in or I was next to you and I stole your wallet or I stole your money, that's identity fraud. That's just theft. But what these companies have done in the marketplace, they've changed what identity theft is from real, true identity theft to fraud. And that, to me, it's a travesty, because what they're doing is capitalizing on Americans for money. So that's a big issue, and that's why I like to open people's eyes to start looking at different issues with identity theft.
Yeah, because I mean, it's so confusing, and the thing is, typically for the massage profession, we're not as technical as the average other fields and stuff like that too. So a lot of it also goes over our head too. So.
That is actually right, and I'm not too technical either. I have one of my partners with Parallel Horizons Group. His name is Nenad Bielanovich with me. I'm going to just show you real quick if it's okay. But here, Nenad, say hi.
Hello.
Okay, so what I would like to do, if it's okay with you, Ryan, I'd like to take, it'll be about 20 minutes and give you a presentation that I normally do in civic organizations and Rotary clubs and Kiwanis clubs. And actually, I do it in church organizations also. Would that be okay?
Yep, perfect.
All right, give me 1 minute. We're going to have Nenad set me up, all right?
Okay.
Yeah, that one. We have to go to customize show. Thank God for technical guys.
Yeah.
Columbus. There we go. Okay, can you see that okay?
Yep, and if you want to do it full screen too.
Okay. Oh, this is. I apologize for you, Ryan. This is full screen right here.
Well, to actually play the.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So what this is, what's the definition of identity theft? Really, what I talked to you about a little bit earlier, but it's really when someone wrongfully obtains your information. So most of us, like I said, we think of it as being a financial. And if you can't see this, let me know, okay, Ryan?
Yeah.
All right. Now, I don't know about you. Have you ever seen this movie, Ryan? This is Identity Thief.
Yep.
Well, this movie, actually, it's very funny. And if you watch it, if you didn't get a chance to watch it, please watch it. But I'm going to tell you something. Watch the language. It's a little bit racy in some spots. But I will tell you this. Everything in there is real. Some of the different situations that happen in there is real. I'm going to show you a small clip right now, okay?
When that comes up, we gotta cut the card. Swipe it one more time. Nothing wrong with that card. I gotta cut the card. Don't cut the card. I gotta cut the card. Go pay your bills, Randy. It's Sandy. Sandy. Es un nombre de una mujer. Yo soy Sandy. Oh, mi nombre es Sandy.
We're not able to see it at all.
Is that okay?
We're not able to see it at all?
Oh, you're not?
No.
Okay. All right, I'll just skip through it. I apologize. Are you able to see this right now, Ryan?
You might have to advance to the next slide.
Okay. Are you able to see that?
Nope.
Hold on 1 second, buddy.
Okay, yep, I can see.
Are we back?
Yep.
We're going to try this one more time. If not, I'm just going to keep going without it.
Okay. Okay, now it's just you, so it's not the PowerPoint at all. Okay, yep.
You got the PowerPoint back?
Yep, on page 7, yep.
All right. You see where it says March 2008 up there?
Yep.
I apologize for all your listeners. Like I told you, I'm not technology oriented, so forgive me. I'm just going to put some of these things up here, and if you might want to look at some of these, but I'm just going to point a couple out to you. In 2012, there was 10,000 identity theft rings in the United States. That means it could be 2 people or it could be 10. There was one story I saw in Florida, an identity theft ring murdered, and I'm going to repeat that. They murdered a U.S. postal man that was 2 weeks away from retirement for his key so they can get tax returns and steal the identity. So this is where this is going. Now, another big thing, the identity theft was a top complaint in 2012. And remember, I said How many years, and how many years was medical identity theft? Which year? I apologize. Which year medical identity theft was number one? Now, some of the different things with the, you know what? I apologize. We got this wrong one here. I'm just going to go with this. You can see the other products and information. These are different sources that I found, and some of these are good products if you're looking for monitoring. But monitoring is only one part. But in Consumer Reports even got this messed up. Because if you could see this, it's saying the threat is exaggerated. Consumer Reports are saying it's exaggerated because 2/3 of cases of identity theft reported were dealing with financial issues. But see, they don't even understand what the definition of identity theft is when they're saying that. And when you look down, Huffington Post, they said they got it wrong. And I really like their quote. And Ryan, would you agree with this? I don't know if have you ever been in a natural disaster?
Yes.
Okay, what were you in, sir, if I may ask?
It was the hurricane in Pennsylvania area a few years ago. What was it named? What was it again? It wasn't last year, but the year before that.
Okay, so when you went through that, it was pretty frightening, correct?
Yep.
And when you hear stories of that kind of situation, you really look at it differently now, correct?
Yep.
Okay, well, see, that's what identity theft is. Identity theft is like going through either having your house raided, or going through a hurricane, or a flood, or a tornado, or some kind of natural disaster. Once you go through it, then that's when you start seeing what the real problems are. But most of us just want to bury our heads in the sand. And please, do me one favor tonight. Just open your eyes and start doing some research, because the statistics say that over 50% of all Americans will be affected by identity theft by the time their life is over. 50%. That's huge. Now, is it real? We were just talking about it. It is exaggerated, according to Consumer Reports, but the Huffington Post comes back and say they got it wrong, like we just said. Now, there's different kind of service types, and I'm going to go over them now, but I really want to stress this. There's 3 different kinds, and this I'm getting from about.com, so it's ABOUT.com. And at the end, Ryan, if anybody wants to send me an email, I'll be glad to send them links and where to find this information. But there's 3 different kinds. First of all, there's reimbursement and monitoring. That's basically what you're getting from your banks and from organizations out there saying that they're going to monitor you. Well, all they're doing is they're monitoring to see if somebody's using your Social Security card or your credit cards, and if they're going to be used. If they are used, they notify you. The second one is resolution. That's where they take the monitoring, and if the monitoring, something happens, they notify you. But then they send you a book, and they say this is what you need to do. Now, one of the things I'm going to share a little bit later with the resolution services, I like to compare it to a fire. Let's say, Ryan, your house is on fire, and you had a resolution service. If you called the fire department would say, or 911 would say, Ryan, go grab a hose, hook it up to the fire hydrant, and we'll wait here. And in the meantime, go tell your neighbors to leave, and we'll wait. If you have a problem, we'll be here on the phone waiting for you. It sounds silly, but that's what resolution does. They don't do any of the heavy lifting. They make you do the work. Now, identity theft restoration is really what you need. If you truly have an identity theft issue, and they're rare, but if it happens, it changes your life. And when I say rare, rare means it might be about 200,000 people in America, but there is 10 million people being affected. But the true identity theft is about 10,000 a year. This becomes a legal issue, and by no stretch of imagination, you're not going to be able to get this done by yourself. So this is where I found this, is at about.com. You can go into a little bit more details. Now, what I like about this is when you continue on through About, they actually talk about a company called Kroll. And Kroll is one of the companies that I represent. Now, Kroll, they take care of 70 countries around the world. And they take care of the Vatican, the United States. But they do full restoration. And they saw something coming up. Now, this article when we were talking, Ryan, you said you have a lot of massage therapist business owners, correct?
Yep.
Okay. You can still see this, correct? Is this okay?
I'm still on the March 2008 slide.
Oh, you are?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to get out of here. I'm just going to get out and get back to, I apologize. Get me back on the screen later. I don't know why it's not working. We tried this the other day and it worked. It's working on our end. Maybe there's a delay or something, so I apologize.
Okay. No, it's the title slide, financial identity theft.
All right, here we are. We're back. You got me. You get to look at my face the rest of the time. Okay. Well, what I was saying, there's some different kinds of identity theft. Now, the first one I'm going to talk about is financial. That's only about 17% of all identity theft issues, and that's what we think about. That's when if I steal your credit card, like I was talking about. But understand, there's federal laws in place that if you notify your financial institution, you're only liable for $50. So all this monitoring that these companies are doing, what's it really covering you if you notify them and you're only liable for $50? That's like if I stole your credit card and all of a sudden I bought 50,000 pairs of shoes over in India. They notify you on that. And what they do is they're trying to stop that. Now there's one big issue I want to make sure that everybody understands. Don't take this lightly. It's still an issue. And the reason it's an issue is because it's a $200 billion, with a B, dollar loss for companies across the world a year. So that is a big issue. Financial institutions are taking a bath because of identity thieves. Now the one thing that gets me with this from my research, the Mexican drug cartel is actually getting out of dealing drugs and they're getting into identity theft. The reason? Because they're making more money in identity theft, and if they get caught, they're spending less time in jail. Is that crazy?
Yeah. Is it harder to prosecute somebody over another country too, or?
Yes, it is. It's very hard. Now they are starting in America. It is starting to get a little bit easier to prosecute, but they're taking some of the power that some of our agencies had and take them away. Give me 1 second. Can you pull up that presentation on? You have it on your laptop? I'm asking the Nod another technical question because you know this guy doesn't know what he's doing. When he's pulling that up, I'm just going to keep going on that. There's about 8 different identity theft types that I'm going to talk about tonight. The second one, so the first one's financial. The second one, this one sort of gets me a little bit crazy, but it's death identity theft. You ever heard of that one?
Yes, I have. Yep.
Well, this one, a lot of people haven't. But what gets me about that is, for example, let's say a spouse passes away. The other spouse is in mourning, and these crooks are literally getting a hold of the deceased spouse's information and running up a bunch of bills and maybe getting a job or a car or a house or committing a crime. And then 6 months or a year down the road, the other spouse finds out. Now, if they do this before the death certificate is filed, that can lead to a lot of issues. Because once the death certificate is filed, it's a lot harder. But they try to do it beforehand, so they got a very short window to do it. So that's a little bit about a death identity theft. Now, medical identity theft that we were talking about. Now, I'm not going to give you the answer yet for this card, but medical identity theft is on the rise. Do you know anybody that's been a victim of medical identity theft, Ryan?
No.
Well, I will tell you, one of my partners, he's a deputy sheriff in a county just a little bit south of here, and I'm right outside of Cleveland. His sister was a victim. And what happened is she got a bill for $60,000. So she called her medical insurance, and she asked him what it was for. And they explained it was for a procedure that was done in California. She's never been in California. So she calls an insurance company back after she finds this information out from the insurance company. She had to call another department. And she found out that it was an amputation of her left leg. So she looked down, She looked back up. She goes, I got both my legs. It wasn't me. So her insurance company said, okay, thank you. So they stopped payment. The hospital turned her over to a collection agency. So when she contacted the hospital, she asked them. She said, can you send me records on that? And that's when HIPAA law kicked in. She didn't know what to do. Well, because she had a restoration service and she forgot she had it, they jumped in. It took them 2 years to figure out what it was. They found out it was an illegal immigrant in Southern California that got a hold of her medical identity and used it. Now, here's what bothers me about medical identity theft. 4 people, and this statistic goes back about 18 months now, so I apologize. I can't find any updated information. But 4 people in America are dying of medical identity theft on a yearly basis. Now, do you want to be one of those 4? Do you want one of your family members? It doesn't sound like a lot, and it's small. But think about it. And that was a couple years ago. It's probably higher now. But that's if I steal your identity. Now, Ryan, you and I were talking a little bit beforehand. You have 2 children.
Yep.
If I steal one of your children's identity, medical identity, and I use it, and they change the blood type from your children's blood type to mine, and they go in the hospital and they need a treatment, they're treating them with my records, what happens? That's severe. So medical identity theft is on a fast growth. Now, children identity theft, you don't have it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Child identity theft. 1 out of 10 kids in America's identity is compromised today. 1 out of 10. What do you think about that statistic?
Oh, yep.
Now, here's what they do. They don't just use it for the money. They use it for jobs. They use it for crimes. That's a big one, crimes. And if you don't think what I'm saying is true, please go to YouTube. Please put in child identity theft. Please put in medical identity theft and see what happens. See what pops up and start just doing your research. Now, not only child identity theft's an issue, but do you know, I was watching one story and a young lady said, this is like a financial birth defect. Her baby was born, and 2 years prior to the baby being born, the Social Security number that her son got was already compromised. So they had 2 years before the baby was born to start ruining it. And that is just absolutely crazy. And how do we stop that? Now, from medical identity theft, you also have child identity theft. Now we're getting into driver's license identity theft. With that clip I tried to show you, and I apologize, but just get the movie Identity Thief and watch it. But driver's license identity theft. Do you know how long it takes me to duplicate a driver's license if I did it?
Well, I've seen in movies. I mean, it's really quick, it looks like, and stuff, right?
It is. It takes about 4 minutes. And I'm not going to call my son out, but I will. Last year I caught my son with a Florida driver's license, and it looked real. So I called my friend that was a deputy sheriff, and I got a friend that's in the FBI, and I asked him about this. What's happening is they're getting the backs of the driver's license from China, and they're getting the hologram from China. And these kids are using these driver's licenses, like my son said, oh, I just got it for fun. Not that he's 18, but he was 21 on a driver's license. But what's happening now is the FBI can actually prosecute for a felony, because now that is international issues and they're crossing state lines. Now, they're not looking for the kids. They're actually looking for the ringleader. But and my son paid $150 for this, and it took him 5 minutes. 5 minutes. There was a lady up in Michigan just about 3 weeks ago. She was 20 years old. She was caught with 40 different driver's licenses with 40 different names. Now, Ryan, I ask you a question like this because if I have one of your listeners' names or yours, I become Ryan, and I'm in another state and I commit a crime, and you get pulled over, and I don't show up at the court date for the crime I committed, and then you get pulled over and the police pull you out of your car, And they say, sir, there's warrants for your arrest. And you say, I never did that. I bet you don't think a police officer's ever heard that before, right?
Yeah.
How do you fix that? There's hope. And I'm going to paint a real bleak picture. There's hope. But understand there's more than the financial. Now, not just the criminal. Now, what about Social Security? We talked a little bit about Social Security identity theft. But Social Security theft, do you know that the only numbers that matter are your last 4 in your Social Security number? The first 6 tell you the region and approximately when you were born. Did you know that?
No.
I didn't know that. And the Social Security Administration, I'm getting a little bit screwed up here, but Social Security Administration has actually released new numbers. And one of the numbers, so if any of your listeners are in Ohio, and especially northern Ohio from Mansfield up, if you have anybody that's under 2 years old and it begins with an 802 or an 803, make sure you get a soft check on their identity because they're already compromised. With this child identity theft and the Social Security identity theft, if you notice, it's starting to be like a web, and you don't know where it begins or where it ends. And that's what happens with identity thieves. Now, the other reason is they start getting your information and they start stealing it and selling it. Now, when I say stealing and selling it, sometimes they steal it from each other or they'll sell it. So taking these 3, the child, the medical, and the Social Security, I want to share a few things with you. If a baby is born in the state of Ohio, all I need to know is what county the baby was born at and the date and their name, and I can get a birth certificate. If I can get that birth certificate, I can get the Social Security number. If I get the Social Security number, I can create a driver's license. If I can create a driver's license, I can create whatever I want. And if you start seeing how this stuff starts tying in, now everybody's, I don't know if you've heard, have you heard about the situations in hospitals and banks where information is being sold to thieves? Have you heard about that?
No.
Well, one of the crazy things about that is this. Let's say somebody's making $8 to $10 an hour, and one of these thieves walks in and they say, I tell you what, if you get me their Social Security number and this, I'll give you $300 cash. If you give me your Social Security number, medical insurance, and this, I'll give you $600 cash. Or if you get me their name, address, Social Security number, and bank account, I'll give you $1,000 cash. How many of these people are selling the information and nothing was done wrong? Everything was done absolutely right, except you had somebody that was either needed a little bit of extra money or they were just doing some things unethical at the time. That's happening. And that's where these identity theft rings come in because they're giving cash. And then they sit on the information. Did you also, one of the other stories I saw talking about this is colleges. There's about 1 college in America that that's been compromised on a weekly basis. That's crazy. And for example, in Ohio, about 3 years ago, Ohio State had 2 computers stolen. Those 2 computers, when they had stolen, they gave everybody identity theft protection from a company for a year. I apologize, for a year. You know what the thieves did? They sat on the computers for 2 years and did nothing.
Oh.
Now they're starting to use it. So your business owners out there, what happens if a business owner has their driver's license or Social Security number compromised? How do you fix these things? Now there are some different publications, and I'm not done. I got a few more I want to share with you. But this is one that you can get free from the FTC. And Ryan, if it's okay, next day or so, I'll get you I'll send you over an email with about 6 or 7 different links, or if anybody wants it, send it to me. But it'll have sites where you can go. One of the best sites for me is itrc.org. That's Identity Theft Resource Center.org. Has a great amount of information for you, how to stop it, how to prevent it. But I'm going to show you a little bit in the taking charge, where in my opinion, and this is just me, I think the federal government doesn't have a handle on this either. So it's getting bad. And I apologize, and I don't know if you see, but I get a little excited when I get talking about this. There's no way we're going to stop identity thieves. But what happens after? It's like when you were in that natural disaster. What happens after? How do you fix it? If I sat here and told you I can stop it, I'd be lying to you. You can't. Technology is way, way too advanced. And we just have to try to minimize our exposures. So that's why I'm trying to open people's eyes a little bit more. So criminal. We talked a little bit about criminal identity theft. But criminal identity theft is a big one. That's where, if, like I told you earlier, if I use your information in a crime. I actually talked to a gentleman about 6 months ago. He lives in a small town, and somebody it was the East Coast, I can't remember exactly where, used his identity for a murder. There was 3 warrants out for his arrest for murder. He got picked up on a traffic ticket. He ended up spending 2 days in jail. He got released, drove to another town, got picked up again. How do you fix this? And this is where one of the things, and again, there's hope. There's definitely hope. But these are big stories I'm talking about, but they're real. And the reason I'm saying this is because if anybody is interested, just go to Google and set up an alert and put in identity theft and watch how many different articles you're going to get on a daily basis. I would say Nanad and I do that on a daily basis. I'd probably say it's about between 20 and 40. Would you agree? Yeah, so there's between 20 and 40 different identity theft issues on a daily basis. So how do we start fixing this? I'm talking about the criminal. I'm talking about social security number. I'm talking about children. How do we fix these things? And you got to find a good restoration company, but not just a financial restoration. You need somebody that's going to give you a complete blanket to protect you in case something happens. You have a specialist in that field that has an expertise to get in there and fix it for you. A couple other little stories that I'll just share with you. You heard about the story about the 3 young ladies here in Cleveland, did you not, Ryan, that were captive for 10 years?
Yep.
Okay. One lady whose name is Michelle Knight. Michelle Knight was the first one that was captive, and she is the one that's out there really stepping up to say, hey, I'm making a better life for myself, and I think that's phenomenal. But did you see the article that somebody in her family stole her identity and was using it for 7 years?
No, I didn't see that part. No.
That's a crazy, crazy article. If you just looked it up about Michelle Knight identity theft, it'll come up. But they actually went as far as moving to Florida to become her. Now there's other things. 60 Minutes had a story about 10 months ago, a mistaken identity, where a young lady and another lady had the same name and their social security numbers were only a couple digits apart. Well, the one lady ran up all these bills, and the first lady had everything put on her credit report. She tried to get that fixed on her own. And she found out that the credit bureaus, when they say they're doing an investigation, they don't really do the investigation. So how do we fix this? And that's where you really need a restoration company. Resolution means they're going to give you a book, something like this, Taking Charge. And that means you're going to go do the work. And this was actually from the FTC. So you can actually get that right from the FTC if you like. And they're free. With the presentations I do here around Ohio, I actually give all this free literature out. There's a ton of good information about kids and for, this is NetCetra, about how to take care of your kids on the internet. We got one about safeguarding your children and how to really keep them off. Small business owners. There's one on small business, and this is all free information from the FTC. Ryan, have you ever used a copier before?
Daily, yep.
Okay. Yeah, do you know anybody that uses the copiers, that the newer ones, like from 2002 on, where they use them like in stores or businesses, and they run many copies?
Yep.
Have you ever heard of copier identity theft?
Nope, I never heard of that before. Huh.
Well, copier identity theft, put that in YouTube, look that up, watch what happens. Well, what copier identity theft does is every copier from 2002 on, they have a hard drive. And that hard drive stores, if it's not disabled, it stores all the information that's scanned. Now, what some of these crooks started doing, they're buying the refurbished machines and taking the hard drives and just dumping them and seeing what they can catch.
Oh.
They did a sting. And I'll tell you what, the sting was pretty amazing to me. And this one I caught on YouTube. They bought 3 units. The first unit was from the Buffalo Fire Department. The second one was from the police department. And the third one was from an insurance agency. It took over 10 hours to download all the information that they had. They had people's personal information, their social security numbers, their medical insurance, criminals. They had people that had sex crimes against them. That's the information these guys got. And this was a television show doing this. So if we think we can protect our information, it's out there. It is out there. You need to really open your eyes and find something that's going to protect you and your family. So this is some of the things that why I do what I do on the presentation. At the very end, and I really wish I could show you this, and I apologize, but I show a short video, and the short video is from Belgium. And what happens is there's a gentleman named Dave, and what Dave is, he's a psychic, and he basically, they're doing a television show, so they set up this mock television show. So what he does is when he's talking to the people, he's jumping around and he's acting pretty goofy. But what happens is he's collecting information, their names, where they're from, and he starts saying, hey, you went to this school, you have these tattoos, you have this many lovers, you spent this much on alcohol, you have this color house, you have this color car. And everybody's like, yeah, you're right. And he gets a little bit more serious. Then he gets into their bank accounts. Then he starts telling their bank numbers. Starts telling them how much is in their bank account. Actual money in their bank account. What happens, each one of those people have a microphone on. And within 5 minutes, there's 5 hackers behind the curtain, and they pull all this information up in 5 minutes. So that's one of the most profound videos I've seen, and I love using it. A couple other things, and then I'll take some questions. Is one of them is the infamous Facebook. Please don't put your information on Facebook, your personal information, where you live. If I have your name and phone number, we can get in and get your identity. That's the craziness about this. And they're looking for kids. And Facebook is one of the ways that there's been there's a huge issue with child sex trades, and they're getting them, and it's basically human trafficking. What they're doing is they're finding these girls and young men on Facebook, and they're finding out they don't have the best home life. What they're doing is they're befriending them, and once these criminals are befriending them, they're meeting them and they're taking them, and they're basically brainwashing them. How they're brainwashing them? They're beating them. They're keeping them from sleep, food. And then what happens is after they get them brainwashed, they give them a driver's license, a separate cell phone, and a social security card. And they tell them if they tell anybody, they'll kill their whole family. And every time that phone rings, they got to answer. This is serious issues. Right? I live about 25 miles west of Cleveland. And about 20 miles west of me, there's a little town that has one of the biggest influxes of the Russian mafia coming across Lake Erie, coming into our area. And Toledo is one of the capitals for human trafficking. So please, if you have young kids, monitor what they're doing on Facebook. Because identity theft, we all think is financial, and it is, but think about this on the kids level. So, I mean, I'm ready for some questions if somebody has them. Now, here's the hope. For under $1 a day, you could be protected. We can protect your family. You get that Kroll, that company Kroll, that's who I represent. You can have the power of a 40-year-old company with a legal presence all across the United States and Canada, combined forces about 10 years ago. And that's why I love what I do. And that's all I'm going to say about that right now. If anybody wants any more information, at the very end, I'll give you a way to get a hold of me. But there is hope. Don't look at this, and please don't bury your head in the sand. Just start doing some research. That's all I ask. That's all I'm trying to do. So I hope this helped so far. Yep. But I'm ready for some questions.
Yep, and then I know with Facebook, I've heard of this kind of scam going around where people will try to take somebody else's name and then open up a fake profile and then try to get added to them, and then they just try to get as much information as possible. Because the school that I used to work for, one of the IT instructors actually ran a test in front of their the whole class and stuff like that, and was able to pull up a crap load of information just by false friending somebody and stuff, and it's just so easy to do.
That's exactly right. Now, you know what? One thing I forgot to do, and what we were talking about, this book I showed you earlier, this is from the FTC, Taking Charge.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to share something with you, okay? This is on page 34. I got to find my... See, I'm getting up there in age, so now I need my other eyes. I got some eyes in my face, now I need these to read. This is one of the things that get me. What I'm going to go show you is this. It's the criminal... Ooh, sorry, buddy. Criminal violations. I just want to share this with you. This is what the FTC is telling us to do if our identity is used for a criminal activity. They're saying contact a law enforcement agency that arrested the thief. File a report against the impersonation. Give copies of your fingerprints, photograph, and identifying documents. Now here's the kicker. Ask the law enforcement agency to compare your information to the imposters. Now Ryan, let me ask you something. If you ask a police officer to compare your information or change all the records from your name to the imposters, what do you think the police officer is going to do?
They're going to want to get more information, talk to other people. It'll be like 6 months in the works before anything really gets done.
Yep, you're probably right, and you're going to end up in court because they're not going to change any records without a judge, and they're just telling you to talk to police officers. The last one is asking the law enforcement agency to give you a clearance letter or certificate of release. Now, and it says to declare your innocence. Well, I know 2 people that have that certificate of release, and every time they drive by a police cruiser that has the cameras on the back of the cruiser, or they get pulled over, they're in jail for 3 or 4 hours until they get that cleared up. And they have to carry that piece of paper with them all the time. So, I mean, those are some crazy, crazy things. If you have your identity compromised, you will need legal assistance. And then I'm going to finish off. And here's the thing, and then I'll go to questions. 2 questions here. First one, medical identity theft. What was the year it was the highest? And I'll give you some statistics there. And then the second one, I'm thinking of another good question that somebody might know. Maybe Nanad has some too. Let me just ask him, my computer expert. What's another good question that some of the statistics I throw out there? Oh, I know one. I got one. If you're a business owner, is identity theft an issue for you, and why? So it's a yes or no, and then if it is a yes, why? And I'll give 2 of these cards away. How's that?
Cool.
I'll open up the questions now if you want.
Okay. And then last year there was a whole thing with, it was kind of going into the whole identity theft in the massage community, where this one lady was actually getting credit card information. People were supposed to be purchasing. I don't know if you've heard Steph Lash, but so many therapists were so scared of what was going to happen because they were actually getting charged through their credit card even without authorizing it and stuff like that too. But luckily last month they finally caught her, and it took them about 9 months to do all that then. So.
Yeah, and in a situation like that, I read a story about that a while ago, but I got to be honest with you, I get so many of these stories now. Sometimes it gets overwhelming for me. But in that circumstance, you're only liable for $50. But here's the kicker: if you don't notify the credit card, or if they don't catch it, or you don't catch it, you could be liable for the whole issue. And that's where a legal issue becomes too, because what if they ran up $4,000 or $5,000? How do you get your money back? And that can go, I mean, you can do it, and they can pin it to the criminal, but you're going to end up in court fixing it. And if you do it by yourself, how much time are you going to lose if you own a business fighting that? And if even that far, if you got to go to another state, how do you do that? Because a lot of times, and in that movie Identity Thief, the police department in that, or law enforcement in that jurisdiction, they can't do anything to the thief unless they're in their jurisdiction.
Yeah, that's a problem. So where people are running into too and stuff. So.
Right, and that's where I come into play. That's where I come in to help people. And but you need a restoration service, and a restoration service is like what we were talking about to help. Even keep your internet image clean. It's the same thing with the restoration service. They come in, they stop it, and then what they do is they go in and fix it. They don't stop until it's fixed. And it can be anywhere around.
Yeah, because the biggest problem too is she was just people are buying things from her for like $20 or $50, so it's really minimal stuff. And the thing is, when they didn't get their services or things that they wanted, they just blew it off like it's such small money. But the thing is, they already have the credit card information stuff, so it's.
That's right. The mafia started doing that. They started stealing people's credit card information and just charging $5 or $6 a month. And what they did is they said that they were figuring out that there was somewhere between $500 and $5 million a month being scammed by consumers. And it was just an easy way. That's why you got to look at your bills. If there's an issue, notify them right away. Don't mess around with that. So you got to get it notified.
Yep. And do you get involved with HIPAA then too? Just because so many massage therapists are kind of confused with that and.
Yeah, HIPAA. I personally don't. I talk to some investigators that do, and yes, they get involved in HIPAA. But again, HIPAA it's the law, and when you start talking about the law, you need some kind of legal muscle or somebody that understands how to circumvent and get around those curves. And that's where you need somebody to go to work for you. And some of the investigators are from the FBI. They're from the IRS. I mean, I didn't even talk about tax fraud, but tax fraud is on a rapid growth too. But you need somebody that has the expertise to get you around that. Because if you try to do this by yourself, you're going to spend hours and hours upon weeks trying to figure out where to go and who to get help from.
Yeah, and I remember many years ago, my credit card, I didn't realize it, but it was like a $2 or $3 charge every single month. So is that something that you see too and stuff, and do they eventually just jack it up even higher then, or?
Yeah, that's what they do. They see if they get if you notice sometimes, like when you go to a gas station will, when you swipe your card, it'll charge you $1, and about 2 or 3 days later, they'll charge you the full amount, or if you're at a restaurant. The reason they're doing it is to see if it's a valid card. But yes, that's what they do. If they can get you, especially during Christmas, if they can get you for $1 or $2 or $3, then maybe 6 months from now they'll jump it to 10, and then 20, and then 30. Yeah, I've seen that. And I'll tell you, personal experience. I was in California, I had my debit card, and I needed my debit card to get into the ATM. I swiped my card, I went in, got my money, went around, la la la, had fun in Cali, came home. About a week later, I get a call from my bank. My bank says, they asked me if it was me. And I said, yeah, this is me. And it was from somebody from overseas. And they said, well, we need to verify some information. I said, oh, no, you don't. And so what I did is I zipped my vehicle around and I went right back to my bank. Well, come to find out, long story short, if I didn't have my service, I don't know where I would have been. But what they did is they caught, there was a skimmer on the outside door to where I was going to the ATM. They got a hold of my ATM card. They took my ATM, found my checking account, switched my checking account to a new ATM. So now my ATM card had two debit cards, or my checking account had two ATM cards attached. Well, they canceled it, and they said, okay, well, we caught it. They gave me my money back. I went about 6 months. Happened again. So that means they had my Social Security number. That's when the trouble starts. So the company Kroll that I was talking about, they were following me for about a year and a half. And last year, somebody tried to deposit about $6,000 of fraudulent checks in my account. And that's when it went crazy. And so they caught two of the gentlemen, and they're still working on the third. And when we're talking about this part of the financial, what if you got a check, Ryan? Let me say I bought something from you on eBay, and we met, and I gave you a company check. And you took it to the bank, and you asked the bank, hey, is this a legit check? They said, yeah. And if they cashed it and they found out that was a stolen check, who do you think's on the hook for that?
Whoever cashed it.
You are.
Yeah.
This just happened to somebody that I know about 6 months ago. They sold a dining room table. They were giving a stolen check. And they went in, and it was a local bank. It's a big bank. You would know the name if I mentioned it. But the bank told him, oh, that's a good check. He just didn't feel right about it. So he said, can you please check again? And they found out it was a stolen check. And so he asked him, he said, so what would happen if I would have cashed it? And they said, you would have been charged. And the problem was, because it was over $250, that's a felony.
And the thing is, I've heard of people, I mean, it takes years and sometimes even a decade to really get their identity back, too, and stuff. And
that's right, if you ever get it back. That's why a restoration service is what you need. And there's hope. There's hope. But, yeah, years, decades. If you go to YouTube and look up child identity theft, I was seeing a story where the young lady was 34 years old and her identity was stolen when she was a preteen, I think 10 or 11 years old. And she was still having problems 20 years later.
Yep, it's just so scary. I mean, especially with everything digitalized nowadays too and stuff. And are credit cards or debit cards worse?
I don't think either one of them are. If you use them as credit, that's the best thing because you're liable for less. The big thing is America is about 2 decades behind where Europe is. I'm glad you brought that up. If anybody has their credit cards, and the credit cards have that little RFI reader on it, and it's RFID reader, so you can pay as you go and swipe it, please get rid of them. There's software out there where I can carry like a notebook size and walk right by you and steal all your information. And don't put all your information in your cell phone. Don't use your cell phone for boarding passes at the airport. And actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to have Nanad share a story with you at the airport, what he does for internet. Do you mind?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay.
All right. So I used to travel for work for a couple of years. I used to do security, and I would sit at the airport waiting for my flight, and just wasting time. So I would take my phone and I would turn it into a hotspot so I can connect and use the internet on my laptop. and I would name my phone hotspot free internet, no password, and next thing you know, there's about 5, 10 people connected to my phone, and they're thinking they're connected to, you know, free internet. They really have no clue what they're connected to. So in reality, I could be running an app that can be pulling all the information that's going through my phone through the internet. So whatever they're doing, and you have people out there who are doing stuff like this, and they can get basically anything you do, they can get it. So you go and check your mail, they can get your email account, they can get your username, passwords. I mean, anything you name it, it can be done, and people don't realize that. So any public place like airport, coffee shop, anywhere you are, if you're using a free hotspot, always think twice before connecting, because really you don't know who you're connecting to. It could be a legit hotspot, or really it could be somebody who's sitting, 2 tables away from you and getting everything off of your computer. So that's definitely one thing that's a huge, huge problem, and people just don't realize it.
Yeah, and the thing is, we just think it's easy access. I mean, we can get free Wi-Fi one way or another, kind of thing, and it's scary.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Again, people are just trying to go on about their business and do their thing, and it could be a few days, month, year, or years later to find out that somebody got their info and now they're in trouble.
And the thing is, airports are the ideal place because people are always in a rush. They're not checking things as much too and stuff. So it's like
Absolutely, and plus in the airports, a lot of airports you have to pay for internet, so people don't want to pay. So here's free internet, and guess what? People are connecting to it.
Yep.
Yep. All right, I'll hand it over back to Skip.
Okay.
See, now you see why I'm friends with him, right?
Yep.
Did anybody respond on the medical? Does anybody? Well, we'll make this real simple. What year do you think the medical identity theft was the highest? Did you get anybody to respond to you on that?
Nope, not yet. They didn't respond yet.
Well, we'll be able to give those away. I also have another friend, and this guy's a little bit scarier. He is a pastor, but he works for a company called Secure State. Have you ever heard of that company?
Nope.
They're actually based here in Cleveland. Their whole job is to break into companies, either cyber or physical. And he showed me a way, and this is scary. So what I'm talking about this now is if you have any business owners, don't have open Wi-Fi, and if you're at home, don't have open Wi-Fi. He went out and bought pieces to a computer, pieced together a computer. And he said, this is what criminals do. They'll just drive down the road. When they find out open Wi-Fi, they'll go after the hack. And if they can get hacked into somewhere, and let's say it's a government agency, and they get all this information, they get what they want, they transfer it, they take apart the computer and start destroying the parts or throwing it all out the window, and guess who the federal government or the law officers come looking for? The person's house that had the Wi-Fi because a fingerprint is on there.
Oh. Yeah, and then one of my friends actually named his Wi-Fi. He named it FBI surveillance ban.
Well, I'll tell you, it's bad. It's bad. But let me give you my email. If anybody wants to email me, it's skip@phg, so Parallel Horizons Group 2, the number 2.com. So it's skip@phg2.com, and my phone number, and this is my cell. Call me anytime. If I don't answer, I'm busy. I'll get right back to you. But it's 440-308-0470. So if anybody has any questions or comments or wants to know how to protect their family, I'm here for you.
Yep. And even if they've been somebody has their identity stuff, can you help repair it then, or?
Yeah, we'll talk in specifics. It depends on how bad and whatnot, but at the very worst, you can, and it's going to cost you a little bit. If, let's say, for example, if it's pretty bad, it'll cost you a little bit, but it's better than you doing it. One last story about that is I met a police officer that actually moved here from New York because somebody in Akron area was using his identity. We found out who the guy was, so we started prosecuting him on his own. Well, he forgot to show up at a court hearing one day. He got thrown in jail. So he was fighting his own case, and he got busy and forgot to respond to a court hearing, and got thrown in jail.
Oh.
And trucking companies, there was another story on over-the-road truckers. This gentleman said, this guy destroyed my life. He got his license because he used it for a crime, so they pulled his CDL. He lost his wife. His wife divorced him. He lost his job. He lost his house because of the stress. The gentleman that committed the crime got 6 years in jail, and this gentleman said, hey, he might have got 6 years, but he destroyed my life. So even if, you know, we got to be protected and really vigilant on that. I mean, shredding is good, but for those business owners, don't have open Wi-Fi, because now I'll take it one step farther. You'd agree that we're a very litigious society, would you not, Ryan?
Yep.
Well, what happens if I'm in your massage parlor and I'm using something and something comes up and I get my identity's compromised, and I find out it happened when I was in your massage parlor and your Wi-Fi was open? If I find the right lawyer, and I'm not saying he's the best lawyer, I'm saying the right lawyer that picks up an idiot case like this, and we file a lawsuit against you, you're in court.
Oh, not good.
So yeah. I told you I was going to make doom and gloom, and I don't mean to sound like that, but just be vigilant. There's hope. I mean, that's why I'm out here talking about it. And just remember, when you hear all these products out there saying medical identity theft is worse, so get our service to protect your checking accounts, blah, blah, blah. You know what? They're great companies to invest in because they don't do much for you. You're giving them money to give you a false sense of security.
Yep, exactly. Well, thank you very much, Skip. It's pretty scary, but thank you for filling our brains.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks for having me.
Yep, thank you. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in.
Bye.